Okay, now here we have the second half of our interview with Bruce Paddock. So his gambling, you think that was part of his controlling nature and he was essentially trying to beat the house?
Is he that stupid?
He did a lot of gambling. When people speculate, you could have a gambling addiction. You could be
Some people like throwing money away. When money belongs to somebody else and you can't call it yours, some people throw it away. I'd rather piss on it than own it.
So why do you think he gambled so much?
Asked and answered. He's giving it away. He's
But
not stupid enough to think he's going to go out and make money. How many people you know go out and make money? If you work for the IRS, you know how much they tax that money.
Well, it's virtually impossible, and I was in the business, so it's virtually impossible to beat those machines. Now, I will say this. In video poker, there are certain machines, double bonus, that type of poker, where the payback percentage is very high, and if you're making sure you're earning your points.
And you don't think they can change that payback percentage with a Wi-Fi?
Not under Nevada gaming laws, no.
Listen.
They all have to be preset.
There's always laws. There's always laws. You know why laws are there? Why are laws made?
To control man.
To be broken.
Oh.
Simple and easy.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
You're telling me Las Vegas doesn't break laws?
If you read up on video poker, though, you will see that if you find just the right machine and you're playing at a high denom and so on, the payback percentage will be like 99-point-something%. And then supposedly, and I'm not aware if people have made a living at this, with your points, you have your card in there, right? Your brother Eric said he always played with his card.
You're talking about stuff that makes no sense to me whatsoever. The only thing that makes sense to me is that Las Vegas doesn't pay their light bills with their money. It's not rocket science.
No. They built some nice hotels with people's money.
They got pretty expensive glass windows, too.
With no alarms on them, apparently. So I don't think any alarm went off with it.
Yeah, the smoke alarm went off.
Yeah.
It was a little late.
So so you watched the video yesterday. We talked about that.
I didn't watch the video.
No?
He sent me a connection to it, and I read a little bit of the article, and I'd had enough.
Oh.
It confirmed pretty much most of my first thoughts on what happened.
Which was?
You can only throw so much money away before it runs out.
So you think he lost
How many $100 bills can you use to light cigarettes before you run out? Doesn't matter how big the pile is. There's always more cigarettes than there are money.
Okay, but that level of snapping, to going from being extremely down, depressed, whatever it may be, from losing all your money gambling to doing what he did, can you connect those for me in any way?
Not on this show.
It would take what, too long? And too many doctors?
Asked and answered. There's only so much we can talk about.
Yeah. Well,
speculation is nothing we're going to talk about.
Well, let's go back to his love of guns, apparently, because you talked about how he loved his guns and loved to keep them clean and so on, and he would go shooting, I guess, in Vegas at the ranges there, right?
I would presume that's what was happening. That's speculation. Here we are speculating.
Yeah.
Get to something we can talk about that's concrete, and we won't turn the mic off.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked about him bringing guns into Mandalay Bay before. That wasn't. You don't think that was the first time he had brought guns up?
Speculation.
Yeah. So when was the last time you had spoken to him? I want to kind of get a flavor for what your relationship was with him.
I went to Santa Barbara about 10 years ago, and put my life halfway back together, and reached out for the first time and talked to my mom, and she wanted me to talk to him, so she called him and he called me, and we talked for about 10 minutes on the phone, and I'd had just about as much of his shit as I could listen to, and that was it.
What was his shit?
Talking about him flying his airplanes to Vegas and gallivanting and going back home.
He was mostly talking about himself.
That's all he ever talked about. It was always Steve. Didn't care about anybody else. No time to care about anybody else. He was either hang gliding or flying his airplane when we were kids, and just wasn't relevant to me. I don't like jumping off mountains.
Your dad flew planes too, apparently.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So
I never heard that before.
Yeah, I read that. Don't know if it's true.
I don't know if they had planes back then.
Well, I'm sure they did. It wasn't that long ago.
Kitty Hawk.
So what about, so when you were a kid, you said he was kind of a father figure to you, yeah? I know it.
Oh, he was the one that picked us up at school.
So did you like him? Did you look up to him?
I like pushing buttons on the dash of the car, and he liked smacking my hand.
Well, that's good
There was
parenting.
three of us. There was three of us, so every third day I'd get to sit in the front seat and torture him.
And he was, what, about 6 years older?
7, I guess.
So those are fond memories, at least?
I don't know.
I mean, when you think about your childhood.
Gave me something to do. Got me attention, so I guess it's a fond memory. Getting smacked. Getting chased down the hall, running into the planter, getting stitches in my head. Getting drugged down the carpet on my back until I had blisters on my back. I couldn't stop screaming. I guess any kind of attention's better than none at all.
So not such fond memories, apparently. Was he kind of abusive, essentially?
No. The fondest memories, I guess, are when I was working at GM and he wanted a boat. We made a deal. He went out and bought a 22-foot day cruiser, and I paid for half of it. And I was screaming at him, trying to learn how to ski, and he was laughing. You know, he knew how to ski, and I didn't know how to ski. I don't know if he ever water skied, but it's not one of those things that's that easy to learn how to do, especially when you're as cocky as I am, screaming at everybody. And I was screaming at him, and he was just laughing.
What lake were you on?
Nacimiento, I believe. Nacimiento. It's up north. Paso Robles.
So looking back at him with hindsight now, when he was a kid, was he a relatively normal kid, do you think?
Yeah, as far as I know. I mean, looking back at him as a kid, I don't remember him as a kid. He was always grown up from what I remember. Mm-hmm. You know? 7 years difference doesn't sound like that much, but I mean, I guess I was always doing my thing. Like I said, I would go out trash digging on Monday morning and bring home irons and toasters and whatever I could find in the trash, and come home from school, I was out in the garage tearing it apart. I never hung out with the kids. My brothers would be inside watching TV and Star Trek and whatever, and I was always out tearing something apart or fixing the neighbor's lawnmower. Hanging out with the kids.
So when did you first start feeling that there was something with him that you didn't like, or you kind of had a falling out with him, or started to see something about Stephen that you weren't fond of?
He just always was doing his own thing. It wasn't that I wasn't fond of him. I never really had anything against Steve. You know? I always laughed off everything that happened.
But at some point, he kind of came across to you as egotistical, narcissistic, and everything about him kind of thing?
No. Well, he was always about him. I just look back on it now. I mean, it never came across as that back then. It was just Steve. The only thing that ever made me reflect on any of that was after what's happened. Mm-hmm. You know, trying to look back like everybody is and see if there was something that you could say, hey, we should have known this was going to happen because this guy worked at Kmart and was buying guns with his money. You know, working for Arby's.
Did you know he was buying a bunch of guns?
Well, he didn't buy a bunch of guns. I knew he had his Python, and he had bought a .22 rifle, semi-automatic, and a shotgun. We'd go out shooting every once in a while. I mean, I was pretty young the first time I ever shot a handgun, you know. And it was because of him.
But it wasn't your thing? You didn't really enjoy it?
No.
But he seemed to have a liking for guns from early on.
He wanted to be an enrolled agent, an FBI agent. And he always talked about carrying a gun for a living. That was definitely not my thing. I can't see strapping on a target and going out in public. I'd rather help people without a target on my back.
At some point, did you learn about him acquiring a large number of guns that was starting to seem strange to you?
No. He never had any semi-automatic weapons except for the 22 that I ever knew of. It's been 37 years he acquired those guns since then. He never had that kind of money to go out and spend. He bought his Python, and I think that was about the most money he ever spent on a gun.
So the last time you saw him was in Santa Barbara. And was there, right? Was that the thing about 10 years ago?
I never saw him.
Oh, that was just on the phone.
I haven't seen him in 37 years.
Wow. And what about Mary Lou? Did you ever meet her?
No.
So how were you kind of keeping in touch with him or learning about what was going on with Stephen in those years?
I don't know anything about what he did. The only way I know anything is through friends of my youngest brother, Eric, that told me what they were doing, through Eric.
And Eric, what was his career? I know he's retired now.
He worked for IBM, I think.
Yeah, he talked about in his interview how hard he worked and.
Well, they were the ones that made the hard drive. Yeah. It was reel-to-reel tape before he went to work for him. So he made his money at IBM. Mm-hmm. Him and Steve making money is news to me.
Mm-hmm. So his interview, what didn't you like about his interview?
I don't think we need to go there.
Okay.
Let's go outside.
Smoke break?
I think we're just about done.
So, has the FBI reached out to you at all?
I reached out to them.
And when was that?
When I was in the assisted living.
So after you heard about the shooting, the very next day?
Well, within a day or two. I talking to my mom, and they were there, and I said, give them my number so I can talk to them. I don't want to seem like I'm hiding from them, and I knew she wouldn't do that, so I called the 800 help FBI or call FBI, and told them where I was, and they showed up on 2 separate occasions.
What kind of questions were they asking you?
The first time they just wanted to know who I was and where I was and what I was, and then they sent out another guy that talked for 8 hours about our childhood.
Wow. You sat down with them for 8 hours at the assisted living center?
Yeah, approximately.
Wow. Do you think they got anything out of that was leads that they were going to use?
No, I don't think there's anything that I could have really gave them except for speculation.
Mm-hmm. What was some of the speculation?
We're not going to go there.
You gave the FBI speculation, but not us. That's okay. And what about, did he give you any indication? I assume you asked him some questions. Did he tell you anything about the investigation?
I wanted to see his bullets and his gun.
Did you ask him about the investigation, though? And
he didn't know anything. He's just like he told me. I called him a week or so ago and reached out to see what they knew, and he told me he didn't know anything. He's just a little piece in the puzzle. He told me he didn't make enough money to make those decisions. I think is what his comment was.
Do you think he did it all by himself?
Who's that?
Your brother, Stephen.
Did what?
The shooting.
Come on. He was found in a room with a bunch of guns. Speculation.
Yeah. But apparently about 20 guns. So there's a lot of speculation as to why so many guns if he's doing this by himself.
I presume that's Nevada. Don't they let you have a lot of guns and shoot them?
Well, he managed to acquire about 55 guns in the year prior in various states and was not on the FBI's radar.
That's why I use bump stocks instead of making them semi-automatic. Or fully automatic. He didn't want to be illegal. He didn't want to be on anybody's radar. I don't think he planned to do this.
Had you heard of bump stocks before?
No, I had no idea.
But you know that he had a love of guns and liked to keep them especially clean.
Yeah, everything he has is clean.
There's some talk that he may have been a germaphobe.
I don't think he's a germaphobe. I think he's just anal. Buys it, it comes wrapped up in a beautiful package, and that's how he keeps it. Even his bottle of vodka when we were kids, when he turned 21, he put it up on the counter and wiped it off every day. It wasn't there to drink. It was there to be part of a game, I guess.
So does the 18 guns thing to you make any sense that he would? You saw or you didn't see the video, but we see the video of him bringing up all these guns. He goes through all this risk in bringing all these guns up. Does that make any sense?
He didn't bring them up.
Well, you mean the bellman helped him?
Sure. They knew what was going on.
You think it probably wasn't the first time he's brought guns up there?
I would presume not. I don't think he just all of a sudden decided he was going to bring a bunch of guns upstairs and take a chance. I think he'd done all this before. But it's speculation.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Well, unfortunately, we're just left with a lot of speculation, but at least based upon what we know, what you know of him. Another thing people are speculating about is 7 cell phones apparently are found.
I never heard that.
Yeah. Well, 3 in the room and another 4 in Mesquite, I believe. But, people would ask, if he's doing this by himself, why does he have 7 cell phones? Who is he communicating with?
Well, who told you that? Were all 7 on,
Well, it's in the police investigative report.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
Yeah. They report that 3 were found in the room.
Well, it's 7 cell phones.
It doesn't seem like a high number to you.
Maybe he had 7 people working for him. He didn't want having the same number.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of drug dealers that got 7 cell phones. You saying all of them were on? He was using all of them?
Well, how many do you have? I know I only have 1. So it does seem to point to something unusual.
That didn't answer my question. How many of them were on and active?
1, apparently, they can't get unlocked. There's 3 in the room, and they've been unable to unlock one, whatever that means.
Exactly. When has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Tap the screen twice, it comes on. Some people are looking for a button.
Well, remember, they had the same issue in the San Bernardino shootings, I believe. There's a big to-do about trying to get the phone unlocked, and you got to go through Apple security and protocol, et cetera.
I don't believe that's true. I believe anybody that has any access to a computer can open any phone. All you have to do is have the software.
Okay, I have to ask you, ISIS claimed responsibility. What was your reaction to that, and what do you think about that?
Get serious.
You say no way.
Sure, they're going to claim responsibility. It's the biggest mass shooting in America's history. You'd have claimed it too.
You think no way did he convert to Islam?
Just not a chance.
Was he religious in any respect?
Not at all. We went to St. Paul's First Lutheran School. He had nothing to do with it. It was all about him.
Him and his ego.
Him and his guns, I guess.
What about, we're going to have to play psychologist here, but what about him and his dad in trying to impress his dad, outdo his dad? It's a psychological thing, because I know they never met. Yeah. But here,
we're done. We're done speculating.
What about Las Vegas police? Did they talk to you?
No. I called trying to get a hold of the coroner to see what the deal was with the body and who was going to claim it, what was going to happen, but they didn't want nothing to do with me, talk to me.
Was there ultimately a funeral?
I have no idea what happened.
I think I read that he was cremated. Is that your understanding?
I mean, I probably heard something like that, but I don't know who I heard it from. Maybe Phil told me that.
Do you know if your mom attended any type of ceremony for him, or there's any burial? No.
My mom doesn't come out of the house. My mom wants nothing to do with it. She had a hard enough life. Okay.
What about the last thing I'll just ask you is you mentioned illness. You think he ultimately suffered from some type of mental illness?
Not mental illness. I heard he was laying in bed saying, oh my God, oh my God. Who'd I hear that from? Maybe her. Through the press or something. It's the same thing I do. I can't move in bed without being in severe pain.
Mm-hmm. So clear, yeah, we know that he was suffering from some type of physical. Are your issues?
He had back surgery when we were kids. He had his first surgery when I was probably 15 years old.
And what about your back issues? Were you injured, or was there some type of kind of genetic thing, you think?
It's spinal stenosis. Whatever causes it, they don't know.
Oh. So definitely something in the family.
No, I don't think it's hereditary. They say it's not hereditary, but it's possible it is. They don't know what causes it. It's a degeneration of the disc. The discs die. When they die, they can't produce fluid. They need that fluid to lubricate themselves. When you move without that fluid, it wears the disc down, which causes pressure on the nerves, which causes paralysis.
So had you been hearing from your mom that he was suffering from physical?
My mom never talked about him.
What about what they found on his computer? They found illicit pictures on his computer.
I never heard anything about that. I heard that the hard drives were missing. It's the last I heard. They had no hard drives, so they had no computer evidence.
Yeah. Well, they found two computers in the room, one without the hard drive, one with it. And apparently the one with it, there was illicit pictures on there. I hadn't heard that.
No.
What else, before we wrap up, what else would you just like to say about the event and the whole thing?
I don't know how to say I'm sorry enough for what's happened. I had no control over it. I wish I would have been in touch with him more so I could have had control over it and stopped it. It's about as far as I can go. I believe maybe if I was there in his life that I could have talked some sense into him, but people like that live for themselves are pretty much unreachable. You can only reach out and help people that want help. And that's what I do with my life.
Does thinking that you might have been able to do something, does that cause you to have guilt feelings about the whole thing?
Speculation. We all have guilt. How much we could have is just a dream.
Have you been in touch with your brothers as a result?
I've never talked to either of any of my brothers. We're all estranged.
Well, you would think something like this might be something that might bring you back together, no?
Why is that?
Well, I mean, each one of you are dealing with something on your, independently that's pretty horrific, and I'm sure you're having similar feelings in some way.
We're through.
Pardon me?
We're through.
Okay.
You can only reach out. We're done.
Yeah.
It's over. I'll make a comment after we're done.
Okay.
We can reach out, but you can only do what one person can do.
Yeah. Have you tried reaching out to anyone? They're not reaching back.
They don't want to reach back. They don't want nothing to do with me. They know who I am. They're not going to change me. I'm not going to change them.
So Patrick is in Arizona?
Correct. In Tucson.
He hasn't really spoken about it, right?
Well, did some interview I saw
Oh yeah.
out front of his apartment building.
Oh okay. Was that right after? I didn't see that. I saw Eric's. I didn't see his.
Yeah, it was right afterwards. He just said that he knew nothing, and I mean, I saw a picture of him standing in front of his apartment building. I seem to remember that, and that was about it.
Pretty riveting stuff, our time with Bruce. I can tell you that I'm still in touch with Bruce, and I think that we may be able to get a follow-up interview with him.